Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So I'm calling this video "What Have Happened to CryptoBlades." So let's look at some data around CryptoBlades and then go and have a look at the game. So this is CryptoBlades daily activity. So we're looking here at daily active unique wallets. So this is the sort of number of wallets interacting with the CryptoBlades smart contracts. Data from that radar. CryptoBlades runs on the Binance Smart Chain, and we can see here at the start of July, basically zero. And we see this very enormous kind of run up. So basically goes from zero to about 400,000 daily active unique wallets, drops off a little bit again, and then makes a last sort of dash, gets to about 440-ish thousand daily active unique wallets, and then we can see an enormous great decline. So now we're currently about 40,000 daily active unique wallets. So this is a sort of to some degree, I think this is sort of a classic sort of crypto graph that we see not just around games. We see this particularly around tokens. When things launch, you can, if you get in there early enough before everyone realizes what's going on, you can actually make good money. And obviously people that start making good money, and then everyone realizes the opportunity, so everyone piles in, and as more money sort of piles into the situation, then sort of everyone's making money because there's more money sort of coming in to a degree, a bit like a pyramid scheme, I suppose. But then at some point, something changes, some economic kind of a factor changes. Often it's the price of a token or the ratio of token prices, and then the sort of the smart money, gets out very quickly as soon as this thing peaks, and you can almost see that. You can almost suggest this is a sort of a smart money getting out here, and more money still piles in, and then the whole thing comes crashing down, and literally everyone's trying to sell, out, and the price. The price of underlying assets sort of collapses, and obviously people just stop playing. And particularly, what's interesting, I think, with CryptoBlades, it runs on the Binance Smart Chain, so you do pay a gas fee. So this is not a game we would necessarily expect to see lots of bots on. So bots are just automated accounts, and we see that a lot on stuff like EOS and Wax at a degree Hive. But you can set up bots clearly on any blockchain, and all you're looking at here really is it's worth operating a bot if the cost of operating that bot, in this case, buying the NFTs and paying the gas fees for the transactions, if that's lower than the money you can get from running the bot farm or running your bots, then obviously you're gonna do it. So well, generally we see fewer bots on blockchains that have gas fees. You can see bots if the economic kind of conditions are kind of favourable to running bots. But obviously what you do see in any situation with bots is, because this could be one person running 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 accounts, when the underlying conditions change, then obviously all the bots sort of get switched off en masse. You kind of bots sort of encourage volatility because they see opportunity, financial opportunity, and they all bot accounts go piling in. So particularly in terms of daily account activity and stuff like that, you see very high kind of run ups because it's not individuals, it's computers, and then obviously particularly on the downside they get switched off very quickly. So that's sort of what happens around that. So I've done another graph here. So here we're looking at the number of transactions per user. So different sort of mechanic on this one, different sort of shape. But we've got it starts from basically zero, and then suddenly we've got these like 50 transactions per user. So I've just taken the number of transactions and divided it by the number of daily active unique wallets. So this is a slightly crude sort of average, because obviously there's people actually playing who are probably doing a few transactions, and there's probably bots that are doing 100 transactions. But anyway, it gives us an average. So we can kind of see here a similar sort of thing to what we saw. A sort of peak here. Actually a double peak sort of area, and then this very sharp dropping away. So for me, I've not done any forensic analysis on this. Just looking at the shape of this graph, I see this sort of driven by bots coming in. So just an enormous kind of uptick. Thing collapses for economic reasons, and then basically here going from 50 down to about 25. This is bots. This is bots being switched off. It's not economically viable for them to work anymore. So basically, the number of transactions in average over the system basically halves in a few days. That's pretty strong activity. It actually rebounds because people start playing, I would sort of suggest here. So this is sort of, the bots get switched off, but people are just like, oh, this thing looks really interesting, and people are sort of playing. And it's sort of it's a game. It does sort of have a timeout, but doesn't really have it's not a long timeout. So you can imagine people playing, if they're hitting the transaction button, you could easily imagine people playing 20 transactions in a session. That lasts for a bit, but it's also on a downward sort of spiral, and then basically there's a point where just kind of people give up, and economically it's no longer viable even for people who don't understand economics or are having some sort of fun in the system, and then the whole thing sort of collapses back down again. And we can kind of see here. So here I'm plotting users, so number of users in blue, the volume. So this is some idea of economic sort of value on a daily basis, and then number of transactions. So we can kind of see here the game sort of is not launched, and we can kind of see, you know, it takes off sort of very quickly. Volume suddenly gets switched on, and then we sort of peak here. And what we see here is actually volume and transactions peak early, and then users peak. You know, users sort of peak here when volume and transactions are already on the way down. So this, to me, you know, I could be wrong on this, but this is sort of how I see this. This is sort of, you know, it's volume and transactions that are being driven by sort of bots, or it could, you know, bots could even be very financially aware people who are playing this manually. Might not be bots, but people who are really aware of the situation and are really smart blockchain people who are extracting value whenever they can see it. You know, these are people who go, right, I can put in, if I put in $100, I can make $110. So I'm going to put in $10,000. You know, so these are people who are looking for yield, however they're doing it, probably through bots. They're driving the game up, but then when it gets to a certain level, you know, people tend to sort of follow in at a sort of a more leisurely pace, because we're not quite switched on, most of us. Probably this is where I started playing, you know, not to make money. I was just so interested, how's this game blowing up? So you sort of have people sort of FOMOing in maybe a little bit, but already the activities drop down. So we can already see the volume has come down the most. Actually, volume and transactions sort of go step in step, really. But then here the volume. So we've peaked here in terms of users. So it's probably, you know, bots and super users and even normal users now have just sort of given up, and we can see here we get this massive drop off in volume. So that's sort of what happens there. Let's have a quick look actually at the, so obviously linking into this is the token price. So that's pretty important to look at. Okay, so here we are on CoinGecko looking at the CryptoBlades token, which is called Skill, and sort of see the same graph really, don't we? So we can kind of see here that so the price starts off about $1, $3, a few dollars here back in sort of mid-July, and then we see, you know, this sort of double peak that we sort of saw on the usage as well, but it basically goes from $3, just piles straight through, and it goes up to $140, and then peaks and comes kind of piling back down again, and now sort of, you know, bobbles around for a little bit, around $50, and now is basically going down to 27. So if you bought here, you're still sort of up, and you haven't sold off, but you can kind of see here the volume as well. So this is people trading. So it is on PancakeSwap and ApeSwap, the big Binance Smart Chain AMMs. So we can kind of see here, you know, this is where the action was happening. The action is always peaking, you know, before the actual sort of value peak. So we can see here, these are the 2 days where it's peaked in terms of people trading in. So we've not even peaked in terms of value here, but already the volume's dropping off, and now the volume is gone. So that's what happened there. And we're down from an all-time high of 85%. So again, can this be recovered? Well, anything can be recovered. Is it likely to be recovered? No, pretty much not the case. And there was even this other complicated thing in the game where you sort of earned the skill, but then it was sort of locked in the system, and you could get it out, but if you got it out immediately, you lost 25% of it. So there are a few sort of, despite, you know, even with the game being pretty crummy to play, there are also some other sort of things that, again, I won't say this was a scam, but there are also some sort of weird things they put in there that you kind of think they were trying to at least maximize their upside on this. So again, you know, I don't think overtly this was a scam in the way that people do rug pull projects. And I do probably think the people behind this have probably made quite a lot of money. They were anonymous as far as I can sort of work out. But you know, obviously you have a reputation that you can burn once, and then if the guys behind crypto or the people behind CryptoBlades say this is our new game, we're the people behind CryptoBlades, then probably a lot of people will be like, no, sort of not touching with the barge pole. And more generally, I would say this is sort of not from a scam point of view, but from a inexperience point of view. This is, if you don't know what you're doing, I think this is the sort of model you get. You have to think about kind of tokenomics. You have to think about, you know, the fact that you don't own your token, that people could be speculators, sort of, you know, looking for yield, and they can, you know, the people behind this project may have had like, you know, a 10-year roadmap of how they're going to build out this project, but basically this project has, you know, to a degree sort of tanked now. And you have to be sort of careful when you launch. You have to be careful as much as possible how you control your token and the floating value of your token, and if you can lock stuff up in a good way. But I think this is a sort of a typical sort of crypto story of you know, you have to be careful about external forces, and you have to, as much as possible, build a deep meta game which makes your assets, whether that's tokens or NFTs, as valuable as possible and as valuable in as many ways as possible. And having a very sort of weak game experience in the initial phases means that even if you have sort of great plans for the future, and maybe even if you were raising money to build out that great future, you don't often get that opportunity. So there we go. I guess I call this a cautionary tale. Whatever happened to CryptoBlades. Thanks for watching the video. This is Blockchain Gaming World, where we spend our time looking at this sort of thing, and hopefully helping people to make better games, I suppose. But thanks for watching, and see you again soon.